What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And today we have, surprisingly, quite a bit to talk about. Obviously the national championship, obviously the NFL conference championships we have to preview. But Ben Johnson got hired, Aaron Glenn got hired, Liam Cohen is staying in Tampa Bay, and that means Jacksonville is still without a head coach, and we have to talk about Balky getting fired. So, with all that being said, before we get into all of the news that we need to talk about today, Matt, Theo, on this beautiful Wednesday evening, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I mean, Ohio State won the national title, and that's hype as hell. I mean, it's as good as it gets. It was a great game towards the end there. I thought that Notre Dame was really going to sneak back into it, but that Jeremiah Smith bomb, that was a classic, dude. That was sick. It would have been a little bit cooler if Notre Dame had hit that field goal and it was like, okay, Notre Dame could get the ball back and win, but I mean, I'm not complaining. A shout out to them, man. I mean, they're a super talented team and they got it done. It's a little weird because this is one of those situations where the biggest game wasn't the national title itself, but I'm super, super pumped about it. I mean, I thought Howard played a good game. I thought both the backs played well, and it was just all around a pretty solid performance. Outside of the first scripted drive for Notre Dame, which made me nervous, I won't lie. That wasn't very fun, but
yeah, but once they got off their script, you know.
Yeah.
After the first drive from Notre Dame, I knew Ohio State was winning.
Because, I mean, Lincoln Riley was, 7 rushes or whatever? That was a frustrating drive, though.
It was frustrating, but, after the first drive, not even before the touchdown, it was clear that he was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Cammie was watching, and she looked up and saw him and was like, that guy's about to throw up. And it was like they had just crossed midfield. And then he did. After the drive, he did go and he had to throw up on the sideline because he was just carried it down the field like a running back, just sacrificing him to the teeth of the defense. And then I was like, yeah, Ohio. Even when they scored the touchdown, I was like, yeah, Ohio State's got this, man. They emptied the tank. They so clearly emptied the tank on the first drive of the game. I was like, all right, they're not going to have anything after this. I didn't watch the end of the game. I'll be real with you. Ohio State got up big enough, and I started playing Madden online. So what happened?
Notre Dame kind of crawled its way back into the game. They had a fourth down decision. They were down 2 scores or whatever. Well, they were down 16 at one point, and they kicked the field goal and missed it. Even though they were it was like 4th and 3 or something. I forget specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they end up scoring a touchdown on the next drive and getting the 2-point conversion. So, I mean, it goes back to OSU. It's a 1-score game, and Ohio State, probably 3 minutes left, 3rd and 11. And Notre Dame blitzes, and they throw it up to Jeremiah Smith one-on-one.
I did see
and Ohio State.
Yeah. I did see the bomb.
You know,
Matt, that was basically games. I mean, it was a sick way to end it. Probably not as classic as the Sawyer play, but I don't know. For Jeremiah Smith as a true freshman, I mean, he's the highest wide receiver prospect and however long. And for him to come into Ohio State and he's immediately maybe the best player on the team, if not at least the best, wide receiver in an incredibly talented wide receiver room that's got multiple first rounders in the future probably. And to be arguably the best receiver in college football this year and to go and dominate in the playoffs and then to say, oh, Notre Dame thinks they can cover me man-to-man, they can't. And then to get a man-to-man matchup on one of the biggest plays of the game and then just to win and seal it, it couldn't get any better. He couldn't be living up to the hype more. So, he's a GOAT.
Was it Morrison that was on him?
Nah, Morrison was hurt.
Was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah, it was a pretty good win, and Ohio State really won the national championship in the offseason, I guess was my take. It's an unprecedented time for college football with all the player movement. For them to rip Caleb Downs away from Bama, and for them to convince JTT and Sawyer to stay, and for them to get the number one recruit, Jeremiah Smith, in the building, like all of those things happening in one offseason, like made them just too formidable for any other team to really deal with. And except for Michigan, apparently. I still don't quite understand that, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, they lose a game, and that's okay in the 12-team playoff, and they get in and lock in and do a ton of damage with all those stars. So, yeah, they
Matt,
recruited the
didn't this
best, and
also happen
that's what
in
gets you the win.
2014. When didn't they lose to Virginia Tech that year and go on to win the national title? That's crazy.
Yeah,
They've done that twice now.
they have.
Multiple
So,
championships
I'm pretty-
in your lifetime. That's got to be awesome.
And
You know, it's-
you're an Ohio
I mean,
State
yeah,
fan.
but Matt's a much bigger Ohio State fan than I am. Like, much bigger.
That's fair.
Matt was
guess
born
that's
and
true.
raised on that. I'm a much bigger
Yeah, but
fan than I am a Buckeyes fan.
You know, it's pretty sick. I'm sorry, I just did a video on it that I'm going to edit together for
Okay.
YouTube, and I've been talking about it for the last 2 days. So I'm sorry if I don't sound quite as hype as maybe I should be. I also, again, I kind of went into this one. I'll be real with you, assuming they were going to win. It would have been a disaster if they hadn't won it. I mean, they were massive favorites, so.
Yeah, they got it done.
But it's awesome, and I actually think they're going to reload pretty well next year. Is the other thing. I think they've got a good chance. They won't be as good as they were this year, and I think there could be some growing pains early. They play Texas week 1, which is like, why are you doing that? What is the point of ever scheduling a game like that? But you know, they can lose that and still be successful. Got to beat Michigan going forward, but.
Well, you probably will still have the best offensive and defensive player in the sport on your team.
Probably,
So
yeah.
That's a good place to start. Congratulations to the Buckeyes, to Brian Day for beating the fraud allegations. And he still has his address posted all over the internet. And
We know right where to send the honey.
We
know right-
Brian Day has beaten the allegations, or
Yeah, that he can't win big games. Yeah, I mean, he still has to beat Michigan. But that's almost a different animal now.
yeah.
that's true.
So he keeps his job in your eyes.
Fire
Like,
him.
obviously, he's going.
Yeah.
To keep, but like,
No, he's going to become the Saints' next head coach, the way things are going, or the Jags.
I was about to say the Jags' next head coach. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should we talk about the Jags, man?
Let's talk about the Jaguars a little bit here. So they've had quite an eventful past few days where the season ended, obviously. They didn't fire Trent Baalke, which makes them a way less intriguing destination, all right? Trent Baalke famously mismanaging things as GM, all right? Like he did it in San Francisco. There is this big public fight between like him and Harbaugh, like a power struggle. They end up both leaving. Baalke goes to the Jaguars. Like there's not a lot to write home about in his tenure there. Specifically last offseason, was kind of a disaster for them. Like as recently as that, it's been bad. And yeah, no one really wants to work with him, it seems. And for some reason, they kept him around and fired the head coach. And then their top candidates all turn them down, and then they fire Baalke. It's like, bro, why didn't you do this after the season? You could have gotten Liam Cohen, maybe. You could have gotten somebody. Like, they're not the worst of the worst destination. We had them as what, the second best of the top 10 teams in terms of spots to land because of their cap space and their quarterback situation and Brian Thomas Jr. and their edge rusher duo. Like, they've got some nice pieces, but they can't bring anybody in because they're mismanaging things this bad. I'll tell you this. When I made I think I've told the story on the pod before, but I made my video like detailing all the things I didn't like about their offensive design. Like a Jaguars beat reporter DM'd me on Twitter and was like, a high up ranking member of the organization just sent me this video and said like, good points. So like, again, if Theo Ash NFL can like correctly decipher what's wrong with your scheme and what's wrong with your player acquisition strategy, everyone should be fired. All right. Hire me, I guess. I'll go do the job.
Yeah.
But Yeah, the Jaguars.
You're on the short list.
I mean, I was in the Bears running for head coach. So, I mean, they could hire one of us. We'd all.
Yes. I don't know. There's not too much to say besides like the Jaguars continue to be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought. I mean, it's pretty bad. They're gonna have to hire somebody who can hire somebody. That's my thought on it.
Hire someone who can hire somebody. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I guess better late than never to fire Balky.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Who would you go out and get? I know Joe Brady's available, or not available, but they've requested an interview with Joe Brady, and I've seen some other guys thrown out in the wheelhouse. Is there anyone that intrigues you?
That's left, man. Like Gruden? I don't know. Not really. I mean, Cohen is the best guy that you could have gotten. Like, Cohen did such a great job with the Buccaneers this year, like rebuilding that run game from the bottom of the league to the top, while also, layering on top of that a passing offense that was super comfortable for Baker, that made sense, that emphasized Mike Evans, like all the good stuff that you want. Like, Dave Canales was a head coach and like had a pretty good first year with the Panthers, I'd say. And like Cohen was a better coordinator than him. So like clearly that guy is a head coach candidate and a good one. So for him to walk and take a lower position with the Buccaneers, it's a disaster for the Jaguars. Like it's hard to even think beyond that. Like, I don't know who I'd want. There is Joe Brady. I think he is a good candidate. I fit him more with the Saints job just because of the offensive line they have. I feel like he could go to the Saints and kind of immediately build the kind of run game that he built in Buffalo, with, Fuaga there and Penning and Eric McCoy, and like they've kind of got that line already there. The Jaguars don't have anything like that. So with him, it seems like he'll either go to the Saints or stay with the Bills. I don't know where the Jaguars go from here. Balky getting fired. It's just so funny. Khan, the owner, was asked why he didn't do a complete overhaul of the coaching staff and front office, which would include firing Balky as well. Mm-hmm. He replied that would be suicidal to do a full reset like that, is what he said about firing Balky, according to First Coast News. And he said that
the opposite was true.
I guess he just committed suicide if firing Balky is suicidal. So I don't know, man. They should just let Lawrence coach the team. That's where I would turn.
True.
Yeah, I think it's tough to overcome silly ownership like that.
Yeah. McCarthy's not a terrible hire if they want to go that direction. Like, he's been pretty competent at both of his places. It's fine. He can at least like build the West Coast pass game decently.
That'd be so sick. That's absolute best possible timeline. Mike McCarthy wins Super Bowl with Jaguars.
I can see it now.
That's a disgusting picture. That would be it would be fine, but it would be a very uninspiring hire.
Really? I think I'd be sick.
McCarthy? I don't know.
If he won a Super Bowl?
If they won a Super Bowl, sure.
I'd be sick.
I don't know. Just kind of like, I would want to hire a young head coach if I could.
McCarthy's young.
Young in
61.
I might want to go under 50, man.
Under 50. Yeah.
I want some fresh blood. Someone give me some new ideas in the building. But
if I was a young guy trying to rise in the ranks of coaching, I think I'd prefer to stay where I'm at for a year instead of taking this Jaguars job.
And
which is what Cohen did.
That's exactly what Liam Cohen said.
So I get it.
Yeah. But some other coaches did end up getting hired to head coaching jobs, both in Detroit. The brain drain is complete. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn. Who do you want to start with?
Let's start with Johnson.
Benjamin stole my job as the Chicago Bears head coach. Truly a tragic decision that they've made, but, you know, it is what it is. Are you shocked that they hired a division rival?
Am I shocked that the Bears did it? No. That's ideal. You hire somebody who knows the ins and outs of the Lions organization. You weaken them while strengthening your own team. I'd be shocked if they had the opportunity to hire Ben Johnson and they didn't. So they made the right move there. I mean, your record, your resume, it speaks for itself. And Johnson's been the best coordinator in the sport for several years. And I didn't know much about his personality. I just didn't know how he'd kind of handle the responsibility, but like I like what I've seen out of his press conferences, and there's that video of him like addressing all the people at work, and then he's like, go back to work. He's off to a good start to me. I think he doesn't seem painfully awkward or like cringe like some of these genius offensive coordinators who maybe can't like lead the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that you can't really know beforehand too much. So, I mean, yeah, I think he was great for the Lions. I think you have a lot of talent. Like, they could be good pretty quickly, is my thought with the Bears. There's some things that they need to fix materially, like roster-wise, of course. Offensive line has to be better and whatnot, but they've got the weapons, and I think Caleb's talented enough so where if Ben Johnson's a good coach, it should look good pretty quick.
Yeah. We said it should have looked good quickly last year, though, and it didn't. So
yeah, but there's such basic things that can be fixed so easily. I feel like just have the right receivers running the right routes, have blockers out in front of the screen. You know, these are things I talked about all year, the kind of most basic things they could be doing better. You know, block a blitz, like just smooth out some of the basic kinks. And I think I think that'll be easy for Ben Johnson, honestly. And then all the creative stuff they're able to do is so tantalizing. I mean, Ben Johnson, he's the most creative play caller I have ever seen. Like, even in the divisional round game that they lost, it was on full display. The shovel into like the power read option, like play that they ran. Like, who is doing stuff like that? And Caleb is someone who I think gives you kind of a special power to run those kinds of things. Like, I've just seen him pull off some of the craziest reads and throws at USC, like triple option plays where he would, you know, break some tackles even, and he'd be in a really tight space downfield, and then he'd like lateral it behind him because he knew he had that guy trailing. Like, he just kind of has the mental capacity to play make in kind of some unique ways in the option game, as well as the downfield passing game. So I'm excited to see what kind of specialty plays like Johnson is able to draw up with him. Because like, if he's doing all this with Jared Goff, who like cannot ball handle like Caleb Williams, who cannot run anything like Caleb Williams, like what's he going to do when he's got a quarterback who can get out on the edge and like understand all the options that he has to like pitch it or throw it across the field? Like, we're going to see the craziest plays like of all time with this duo, I think. And if they can get the little things right, I think it's going to be a very good marriage. And I don't see why Ben Johnson wouldn't be able to get the basic stuff right.
Yeah, I agree.
So that leaves Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator, gets hired to the New York Jets. I said this on Twitter. I'm curious to see how you guys feel about this. I think in a vacuum, probably a good hire, considering what Aaron Glenn was able to achieve with the Lions defense, given all the injuries they sustained this year. However, every time I think about the Jets, I have to look at things through the lens of like, they fired Robert Saleh and their defense immediately got worse. And like, people wanted to blame him for the culture issues. but it feels like Rodgers was probably more of the catalyst of the culture issues in that
or
building.
the owner himself.
Or the owner, right? And so it does kind of feel like even though in a vacuum this is a good move, it's probably in comparison to Saleh at best a lateral move.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
fair?
I mean, I if I'm Aaron Glenn, I don't know if I would have taken this job. No quarterback.
Yeah, no quarterback.
No quarterback. And you're going to have expectations to not be awful right away. Really, I mean, it's kind of a disappointment from year one if they don't make the playoffs. I don't think people are going to be like, fire Aaron Glenn if they win 8 games next year or whatever. And it kind of depends on how this offseason shakes out for him. But he's going somewhere that fired a guy who got the defense right but just didn't have a quarterback. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, maybe you can get the defense right, but where do you get the quarterback from?
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I think it's kind of a tough spot. I know there's only so many places you can go be an NFL head coach at, and, you know, you take what opportunity you get, and you certainly could do worse than the Jets, but I'm worried that this is a team that wins, you know, a decent amount next year and then isn't in position to get a QB and then could struggle going forward. And it's like, you know, like I was saying with head coaches, the guys who don't have quarterbacks, they're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Well, they got Rodgers.
Oh, that's true. My fault.
They
He's a
do
Hall of Famer,
employ.
damn
They
it.
do employ a quarterback
He's on the team.
roster. Maybe they might not actually. Who's to say? You might not know if Rodgers
If he
is
leaves,
coming.
I mean, what are they going to do? Is it
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson? Tyrod. Zach Wilson's the third string in Denver. Has been for some time.
Yeah, that's
but
right. They'll bring him back.
they'll bring him back. I mean, I like the hire. Like, I like Aaron Glenn as a coaching candidate. So, I mean, from the Jets' perspective, I think they did well to get him.
Mm-hmm.
He's seems to have a good amount of dog in him. Like the images of him coaching against my Packers, like casting spells with the rain over his eyes, like he can't even see, and he's like got us in a blender with his like Post-it note sized call sheet that just has man on it. I think that he's a galvanizing force, honestly. Like, he just seems to have charisma and toughness to him. And a coach can delegate a lot of the, you know, the scheming duties and a lot of the, you know, play calling things. If he wants to, he can keep calling the defense if he wants to. But, like, more importantly than anything else, you just need to have intangible like leadership qualities, and I think that Aaron Glenn has shown that he has that, maybe even more than like Ben Johnson, who is such a great play caller, but like he's a bit quiet. Like, how much of a football coach is he really? Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's still like, how can he lead? And I guess those questions exist with Glenn as well. But as a former player and as someone who just said like, fuck it, all of our guys are hurt, we're going to blitz, we're going to play man, and we're going to create some havoc, and like for the team actually to respond and pull it off. Like, I really think even despite the playoff loss where they let up 45, like Glenn coached his ass off this year. So I like the hire. I think as a coach, you can't get too intimidated by the like what ifs, like, oh, what if we can't find a quarterback? What if they do me like they did? So, like, every single head coaching opportunity that opens up is probably fatally flawed in some way. All right. Like, either the organization sucks or the quarterback sucks or something sucks. Like, that's why the previous coach is gone. Like, if you ever want to be a head coach, you got to take on, you know, something. And for Aaron Glenn to be able to work with Quinnen Williams and Quincy Williams and Sauce Gardner and, you know, a defense that has a lot to work with, like, he can't shy away from that too much. So I like the hire. It's not as prestigious as Ben Johnson, who has better results than him. It's not as prestigious as Mike Vrabel, who has better results than him. But I think it's fair to call him the third best coaching candidate out there, and he's the third one hired. I think it's kind of gone in order of
Would you rather have had Aaron Glenn or Liam Cohen?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe Cohen, but I guess wasn't available. Cohen is just such a good offensive play caller, and I still think that that's probably the most valuable thing that you can provide is, the Kyle Shanahan, the Andy Reid, the Matt LaFleur, the Sean McVay of it all, to just kind of generate points on the board by yourself pretty much. Like that's the most valuable thing that a head coach can be to me. But there's plenty of examples of culture guys and kind of CEO type figures like the Harbaughs and McDermott at this point, and Tomlin, and who else? Vrabel, who've come into a lot of success as well as kind of defensive or neither guys. So it's hard to say, but I think I would have rather have gone Cohen, but he's not going anywhere, so it didn't really seem like much of a choice.
Fair. All right. Well, are there any other coaching news that we need to discuss? Or I think that's all of them.
I think that's all, yeah.
All right. With that being said, Jordan Travis is on the roster of the Jets. He could be their future quarterback.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
The guy that,
yeah, I remember Jordan Travis.
Yeah, you want him?
As the franchise guy, yes.
Yeah. All right. There we go.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're really a heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare ya. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's gotta be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's locations.
Well, let's talk about the NFL playoffs. We've got conference championship weekend. In the AFC, we've got Chiefs, Bills. In the NFC, we've got Commanders, Eagles. One of these we saw coming potentially as a possibility. The other, I think, is a surprise to many people. Do you want to start in the NFC? Eagles, Commanders?
Sure.
All right, man. I want to ask the question, do we think Jaden Daniels has enough juice? Because we know that if the Commanders want to win this game, Jaden Daniels is going to have to ball. That's their path. How good does he have to be? And do you think it will be enough to overcome what we consider to be maybe one of the most complete teams in the NFL in the Philadelphia Eagles?
No, I don't. I don't think they're going to win, if I'm being honest with you. It'll be tough. I mean, it's not impossible, of course, but I think that this defense is a whole nother animal, and it's not as simple as Daniels going out there and doing his thing. You need everybody else to be a part. So if the offensive line's a letdown, the offensive line's a letdown. If the receivers can't go out there and win so easily, then the receivers can't do that. Bond is an animal as well. And it's like you're going to have somebody to deal with him, or he's going to be able to take somebody out of the game. I think Daniels will probably still have a good game. I think he can still use his legs to avoid negative plays and to be frustrating. But I think Philadelphia's defense is just another animal. Mm-hmm. There's a world maybe where like offensively the Eagles have a rough day or something. But even then, I kind of just feel like they're so reliable when it comes to their run game that they could get control. So I've got Philadelphia in this one. I think Daniels has had an amazing season, but I still think it's a team sport, and I still like Philadelphia more. I said the same thing about the Lions, though, too. So
yeah, but the Lions were more banged up on defense, and like the path was there for Daniels to really exploit that, and he did. But a healthier, more complete Eagles defense, I agree, is probably too much to handle.
Yeah. So he's played Philly twice this year, and I've got some stats from him in those games. So he averages 6.3 yards per attempt versus Philly this year. Overall in the season, he's at 7.4. So it's over a full yard less versus Philly. His interception percentage this season is 1.9%. Versus the Eagles, it's at 4.2%. He's thrown a lot of picks versus them so far. His average depth of target for the season, 7.4% versus just 7.4 yards downfield. Yeah. Versus the Eagles, it's at 5.6. So he's a bit of a check down artist a little bit, or he has been, especially in the first game he was. His EPA against the Eagles is actually in the negatives, despite the fact that he won and threw a bunch of touchdowns in the second game. His success rate is lower against the Eagles than it is overall. So as good as he's been, he's probably going to have to play the game of his life, and he'll have to play at a completely different level than he has against the Eagles in the past 2 games. Like, even when he won and put up 30-plus points in the second game, he threw a pick with, 3 minutes left in the game, and they were down, and it should have ended it, but Devontae Smith dropped that 4th down play, so they got another chance. So even then, he threw that kind of game-losing interception, and it was a rough one, right? Like, the Eagles' defense gave him plenty of problems, I thought. So it's going to have to be an unreal performance. He's going to have to throw it over the zone's heads, basically. He's going to need probably to hit 2, maybe 3 big shots downfield. Obviously, he's going to have to use his legs. In the second game against the Eagles, which they won, he converted a 4th and 11 with one of the sickest runs, and probably my favorite play from him all season was that conversion where he just slithered through the tiniest gap between 4 defenders that were boxing him in. He hit a sidestep and just squeezed through there. Gorgeous stuff. And he's going to have to avoid the mistakes that he's had against the Eagles. He's going to have to avoid the picks. And while still being aggressive downfield, and just no one's been able to do that against the Eagles this year. Now, one thing he is better against the Eagles than he is against other teams is avoiding sacks. They haven't found a great way to pressure him, Fangio. Fangio doesn't blitz very much, and I think the extra blockers that Washington kind of leaves in creates kind of an awkward situation for him where it might be 6-on-4 or something like that. And his pressure rate is really low in that scenario. And when he blitzes, Daniels is really good against the blitz. So I think he can I'll be interested to see how Fangio handles that and if they can generate more pressure. But Cosme is out in this game. And Jalen Carter will be going up against the backup. So they'll probably be able to get more pressure than they ever have. So, yeah, it's just tough for me to find a great path. The Eagles' defense is so good against the run from the 2 high shells, especially in the Week 16 game. I mean, they totally shut down the run, except for some of the Daniels scrambles and forced fumbles. I just don't think they're going to be able to run without Cosme, pass protect. I think Daniels is going to be able to do his thing to some extent. I think he'll be able to scramble, and again, I think that gets amped up in the playoffs and it increases his value. But man, I think I'm putting my faith in this Eagles defense. I just think there's too many things that they're good at.
Yeah, I mean, even in that second Eagles game, which the Commanders ended up winning, that was Kenny Pickett back there at quarterback for 3.5 quarters?
3 quarters, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles scored 21 points in the first off of a long Saquon run. And their one good drive was off of Jalen Hurts running down the field, but he only threw 4 passes in that game before he went down with the concussion. And then the rest of it was Kenny Pickett. And I think they had 1 successful drive the rest of the game, and score another touchdown. So they could, they legitimately could have put up 60 in that game.
Now, the first time they played, though, Jalen Hurts was in the whole game, and the Eagles only, I don't know, did they have a point at halftime? I just watched this game, so I should know.
It was, the score at halftime was 7-3 Washington.
And I think they only had about 10 points maybe, or 6 points going into the fourth. I mean, it was a struggle for this Eagles offense until the very end when Saquon started breaking off some long runs. So it's not like it's a guarantee that Hurts goes in there and just shreds. All right. It was a real problem for them in that first matchup to put points on the board.
Yeah, both these have been 1-score games. That's kind of, maybe I'm underestimating Washington a little bit. I just think that their path to victory feels like it's more likely to be Daniels plays pretty good and the Eagles offense can't quite get it together.
Totally.
Rather than the Eagles are running at will, but Daniels throws 7 touchdowns,
Totally.
That to me feels like the more likely route to a Washington victory.
100%. They need to bank on just a collapse from the Eagles, and it's possible. I mean, we've talked at length about their results throwing the football, and all the sacks that Hurts took last game. He took 7 of them against the Rams, and 6 of them came when he was holding it for over 4 seconds. So that's not good, right? They can knock the offense back. They can blitz. They can try to take away. In the Pickett game,
it's a lot of sack yards too. He's in that game.
True.
It was 9 yards per sack.
Ooh, yeah. I didn't know it was that bad. Wow.
Yeah, it's 63 sack yards. Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot of yards.
A lot.
So yeah, there is always that potential, and the Eagles just have more hotheads as well, like Jalen Carter, Sirianni, AJ Brown's been getting frustrated. I can see them.
Carter could have slammed Stafford if he wanted to, and he chose not to.
He did, but he also had a 15-yard penalty in the Week 16 Washington game, like an unnecessary roughness. I can see if the game is I can just more clearly see the Eagles collapsing in on themselves with the pressure and the expectations.
All the pressure's on them.
All the pressure's on
Washington, it's they could lose by 40 and it'd be well.
And do they have the best people? I know AJ Brown's been reading his book, but do they have the best people to deal with all that pressure?
Sirianni will get them right. I'm not worried.
So I could see them maybe making some uncharacteristic mistakes in that way, whereas Washington is pretty cool, calm, and collected all the time.
What makes a mistake uncharacteristic? That would be my question.
I guess they're just
they might make some semi-characteristic mistakes.
Yeah, maybe. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. I can see the path for Washington, and it is the Eagles' offense doing a bad job, but I don't know. Is AJ Brown really going to have that bad of a playoff run? He had 1 catch for 7 yards versus the Packers. Didn't do much against the Rams as well, and had that drop. I have to believe that it's not going to be.
Brown, man.
I have to believe that he's going to get right one of these
One
games.
word, 3 letters.
What is
He's
it?
due.
Due. Yeah, he is due.
Oh, that's true.
He's due. It's as simple as that. And Washington, reverse due.
They are
It's
reverse due.
scary day.
They are reverse due. I wonder if they'll go more with the Kenny Pickett strategy with Hurts this time around. In that Week 16 game, they were too high, worried about Brown in the pass until Hurts got hurt, and then it was comically overloading the box. Truly these one-on-ones, Lattimore and Brown, which Brown got the better of, but Lattimore had his share of wins, honestly, that game that allowed them to kind of crawl back in. I wonder if this time around they're hey, we won playing that way. And I understand that it was Kenny Pickett, not Jalen Hurts. But since it worked, let's just do the same thing again. Just sell out, just stop Saquon. And AJ's been having such a bad postseason that maybe we're willing to live with that a little bit more than we thought. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Maybe. I will say there was one of the plays that really stuck out to me in the last time these two teams played was there was I think they were in fourth and 1 at one point, the Eagles, and they ended up punting. But I think maybe it was 4th and 4. But there was just 4th and short yardage situations where normally they would go for it, or there was 3rd and short yardage situations and they ended up passing. I'm they would have just handed that, or not even handed it off. They would have just lined up in their tush push and got that, no problem.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I lean the Eagles here. I know the Commanders are on a 7-game winning streak right now. But
yeah,
Matt, reverse due, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's just a bit too many mismatches. I'm tempted to take the Commanders because I do believe in their defense a little bit here versus the Eagles, and I do think they're going to go all out to take away Saquon, and the Eagles' passing offense has just been so questionable recently that I think that can work. But
yeah,
the Eagles' defense can carry them, and I think A.J. Brown's going to bounce back a little bit. Saquon still is going to chip away, and the defense is there. So I do think it's a formula that can work despite the scariness of some of the passing flaws.
Here it is. In the first half, they have a drive, 3 plays, 9 yards, 4th and 1 punt.
Yeah.
They have a drive. Their second drive right before halftime was 3 plays, 9 yards, 4th and 1 punt from their own 36. But like they would have gone for that every single time.
Definitely. They should have, even with Pickett.
Just hand it off to Saquon.
Yeah. The 4th and 1, like you don't need a tush push like to get 4th and 1. You have other ways to gain a yard.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Yeah.
Apparently not. I saw a lot of people question. They're like, does Kenny Pickett not know how to, do they like not practice it with him? And my answer was like, probably not, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how a practice would be structured. Like, when do we get into the like Kenny Pickett with the full contact?
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, like the quarterback's in the red shirt, right? Like he's not supposed to get hit during practice. So like, when are we running Pickett on like a million tush pushes like in practice?
It's like you probably practice that like a little bit with Hurts.
They probably don't even practice it anymore.
Maybe not. I would say at most once a week. They do like, they probably run it like one time. They do it like on Tuesday practice. It'll be their first full contact day.
Or maybe it's all day practice.
Let me tell you, dude, you would not want to be my backup quarterback. We're only tush pushing every day.
Considering
you're earning your $5 million.
Considering how some other aspects of their offense look, they must only practice.
It's tush push or handoff.
Tush pushing and
their offensive
mid-season
line,
two-a-days.
power read.
Yeah, it's just their offensive line is having the time of their lives at practice because it's just downhill every play.
AJ Brown hasn't showed up to practice in weeks. That's why
his pads are perfectly clean. Mm-hmm. Oh man. Yeah, so we'll all take the Eagles. Do we have score predictions?
Oh sure, why not?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll say low scoring.
Okay.
Maybe medium scoring.
Medium scoring.
I'll say Eagles win 23-20.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna take 23. I was thinking that.
LeBron.
No, I'll go
LeBron.
LeBron. I'll go 23. It sucks that Jordan's number is also 23. I'll go 23-17.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to go with the LeBron number. I'm going to go with the Nick Chubb number. Give me Eagles 24
Boom.
to 23.
Okay.
1 point win.
1
I like
point.
that.
It'll be a good one. LeBron loses to Nick Chubb. Sounds about right. But let's go to the AFC. Chiefs, Bills. We've seen this matchup before. The question is, do we know how it ends? Matt, the Bills are the Panthers, are they not?
Yeah, they've got a couple of Panthers guys. They used to, like probably like 4 years ago. They used to have a lot of Panthers when McDermott was just over from Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to. I don't know. I have no idea how to feel about this one. I don't have a prediction coming into this game right at this moment before we talk through it. I don't disagree that Buffalo's run game won't be or it will be a problem for the Chiefs, right? I totally can see that. They didn't look like, that dominant against the Texans, and Buffalo's even against I didn't think it was going to be just what you could build the entire game around. But even with the weather problems and really just deciding, hey, we've got to run because that's what the game is, and everybody kind of knowing that, they still were able to get it done on the Ravens. So I think they can lean on that in a way that in games past they haven't as much, right? Defensively, I thought they looked really good against Baltimore. I don't know. But at the same time, I think the Chiefs are just like way more clutch and big time moments. And they've just been so consistent this year. So I'm really torn on this one.
Man, it is a tough call. Immediately after the divisional round, I was feeling okay about the Bills pick, and then since then I've gotten less and less confident to the point where now I'm thinking about maybe picking the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They are just better in big games. Like if you were to play a million Super Bowls between these two teams, like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes would win more than they'd lose, even with this roster. I feel like they're just better at it. They're better at winning. They simply and truly are. But to get into the more interesting analysis, I've become less convinced that they're just going to be able to run the ball very easily. I mean, in the first time these two teams played, James Cook averaged 1.9 yards per touch.
Yes.
And the Chiefs did a fantastic job shutting down the Bills' run game. Now, the Bills were missing Spencer Brown, who might be the best run blocker in the league this year, and was completely dominant against the Ravens. And they still won by 9 points. But the Bills were living in a 3rd and long world in that game, with their screens not working and their run game not working. They were in 3rd and 7 plus 10 times against the Chiefs in the regular season. The Chiefs were in 3rd and 7 plus 3 times the entire game. So the Chiefs actually did kind of what the Bills wanted to do, which was, just pound the rock, make it 3rd and 1, make it 3rd and 1. And the difference was like Josh Allen was just the best quarterback in the world that day on 3rd and long. Like he had one of those games. He was dominant. He was unreal. But it's dicey, right? If they take away the run game and the screens are too much and the run game is too much and you put all that pressure on Allen, and you worry a little bit that the same thing could happen to you as a Bills fan as what you just saw in the Ravens game, where it's like, you kind of come in as the favorites maybe on paper, but they're taking away the run game. There maybe is some weaknesses in the receiving room, like some drops, maybe Allen pushing a little bit too hard, throwing a pick, like who knows? Like you worry about that same thing kind of getting flipped on its head against all these spag blitzes and the bear fronts he's going to put out, and the linebackers playing at like 2 yards of depth and just like living in the...
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at the last time these two teams played, and it was kind of a weird flip of what you see from these Chiefs games. The Bills won the turnover battle, the Bills won the penalty battle, and they won the time of possession game. Like, are they going to be able to do that again? Like, I feel like the Chiefs typically aren't losing all of those, especially, the penalty one. They're usually such a disciplined team. But
that or the refs just like them more.
I wasn't going to say that, wow. But you can put that on record.
I don't know. I kind of think part of me feels like there's more routes for the Bills to win this game. I kind of think that they could just get big and run it on the Chiefs. I know what the early season result said. The early season result also said that like the Ravens beat the Bills by 20 something, right?
True.
So it's just a different time and a different game.
True.
Now, of course, Buffalo won, but maybe with the run game, things are better. But I also think if the run game gets shut down, then you can lean on Allen heroics. I am a little worried about them leaning on the short stuff and the run game too much and selling themselves that way. But I don't know. If it was any team other than Kansas City going into this game, we would like. Do you know what I mean, though? Right? Like if it was the same results from a different team, I'd be like, give me Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I mean, they didn't really play that great against the Texans, but they've been doing this all year.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you have to be like, well, that's just who they are. That's the type of the results they can get.
Yeah.
So I I have a tough one with this.
Yeah, it is tough. I really do trust Spags to, at least at the beginning of the game, shut down the run. Like, I just think these players in the front seven, they'll be like, well, the job is we got to shut down the run. And they're just going to do it because that's what the job is. And they just always seem to do the job. And the Ravens were able to do the same thing in the second half. They were able to get on top of the screens. They were able to shut down the run a little bit more, and they were able to work their way into the game. Like, could we see a whole game of that from Kansas City? I kind of think we could. But with Spencer Brown in there, I think if they do it enough, like, eventually there will be some cracks. Like, they're just operating at such a high level right now. Like, I do think the run game will be better than the first game, even if Spags, like, does a very admirable job against it, which I think he will. And, like, the third and long stuff, like, it seems like it could be unattainable if it becomes that type of game again, or unsustainable. But with Allen, it kind of isn't, right? Like, Allen can always erase 3rd and 8, like, no matter what the defense is, no matter what is happening. So he just is one of the best, if not the best. So to have both of those things, it is. I mean, who else was missing for the Bills in that last game? Dalton Kincaid was missing, I think. Not that he has to be a huge positive. He's had
Milano
kind of
playing?
Milano, I don't think he was. So the Bills are healthier. They won last time. But man, I was kind of shocked at how good the Chiefs were, like, looking back at that game, just kind of taking away the run, taking away the screens. And if you can do that against the Bills, you'll have a chance to win with Patrick Mahomes on the other side. And that's the other part of this game, is we got to talk about the when the Chiefs offense is on the field versus Buffalo's D.
She kind of just feels like, I don't know. I mean, if it's not Kelsey getting it done, who's going to step up? Or is it just going to be more Kelsey? Sort of like sitting in zone and doing his thing.
It will be
and
that.
His connection.
It will be that.
Yeah. I mean, his connection with Mahomes.
Who are you putting on Kelsey?
I don't know.
It's hard to double him. I mean, he's a tight end. He just kind of goes where he wants a lot of the time. It's hard to double a tight end. The Bills last time, they played a lot of man, and they just kind of live with the results. And they did a really good job last time. I mean, the Chiefs, even though they were slowing the Bills' offense down, I know the Bills ended with 30 points, but, like, the Bills had 16 points going into the fourth quarter. Like, I really think the Chiefs' defense played really well that game. But the problem is, like, the Chiefs only had 14 points going into the third quarter. They had a lot of drives that went absolutely nowhere. Mahomes threw a pick early. They had a couple 3-and-outs that went for negative yardage, and the Bills kind of shifted up their strategy, usually a zone team. They decided to play more man, and it was effective. But if they do that in the playoffs, will it work again? I don't know. Kelsey looks so good in the last game. It's clear that he's not really washed by any stretch. Like, maybe
he just doesn't try in the regular season. He's kind of Braun-like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick with Kansas City. I think the reality is, Spags is probably going to be able to give them trouble for a lot of this game, and Mahomes is just too tough to deal with. I don't think Buffalo's defense is as good as the Texans. I don't think it's going to be able to create quite as much havoc as they did. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to dang near anything happening in this game.
Yeah,
but I just feel like the Chiefs are so good at closing in these big time games, and it's probably going to come down to whoever closes better.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's what it came down to last time. But it was the Bills. But it came down to the last drive. It came down to the 4th and 2, where Allen took off and ran for that touchdown. Right. If that play didn't get hit, the Chiefs would have gotten the ball back down 2. With a short field to drive. So it came down to that final play, and I think that's what it always comes down to with these two teams. And it's just tough to know. It probably will come down to just who has the ball last.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came down to that in the Ravens game too. I mean, we said the Bills weren't doing a great job of kind of maintaining their lead and closing that game out. And if it isn't for that Mark Andrews drop at the end, we might be talking about a completely different.
You know what it is? It's just I don't trust Buffalo's pass rush.
It's fair.
That much. And the issue is, like, don't get me wrong, like, you could probably still get wins against those tackles. Like, they're not perfect, but I think the path to winning here is, like, you have to really crush those guys. You've got to really stomp them and make it so difficult that even Mahomes can't deal with it, right? I don't know if Buffalo quite has the juice to do that. And if they don't, I could just see a lot of super frustrating, like, dang, they're not getting home. And then you give Mahomes too much time, and then he just kind of lobs it up to somebody who's wide open or whatever, and it looks exactly like, oh, well, they're like, it's like, it doesn't even look like the Bills are doing anything, you know? Like, you can see that sort of frustrating game script play out. Mm-hmm. I kind of think that's how it's going to go towards the end.
The pass rush is a big concern for the Bills. They rank 22nd in sack rate rushing 4 this year. They rank, 19th in pressure rate rushing 4. Like, they've got more run defending bodies, but that didn't really help them against the run last time. Like, Kareem Hunt was able to have a pretty efficient day. I just worry, like, I know they have Milano. I just worry that there's a bit too many pedestrian players on the defense. Like, there's good players, but, like, they just don't have a Chris Jones. They don't have, I always talk about that. Like, you need a Hall of Famer on defense to go out and, like, maybe win the Super Bowl. It just seems to be that way. The Bills have some good players, but do they have the star power that, like, the Chiefs have with Jones and McDuffie, who just are kind of automatic pass rush by themselves and are a bit more of
a Hall of Famer?
No, definitely not. I mean, Milano might be good. I mean, they beat him last time. It is very important to keep in mind, but it's like, I do think Mahomes is going to hold the ball, run around, and find Kelsey plenty in this game. I do. And I worry about that pass rush. And last time they played, it was Wanya Morris playing left tackle. Now it's Joe Thuney, who has his problems, definitely, but he has kind of solidified things a little bit for them. That plus, I think the Chiefs are, like, noticeably good at chip help, like chipping in a way that stops the defender and also like gets out into the route in time. Like, they find that balance very well to help out their tackles. Something to add in the Kelsey GOAT case, Matt, like how good he is timing up that chip help. And getting
it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. Chip help, who cares? People pretend to care about blocking. They don't really care if Kelsey's good at that. And they don't care if he has an 100-yard playoff game. None of it matters. He needs to stiff arm somebody. He needs to break a tackle. That's what he needs to be, but not in an uncool way.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't look like Randy Moss.
He needs to make a contested catch and not these wide open
like him
ones.
Him sitting down in zone because dude, that means nothing. People look at that and they see that he could get a 50-yard playoff, something like that, and they'll be like, Kelsey sucks even more than I thought previously.
Yeah, because
that'll be their take. It is. That's what happens. And they'll be like, they're just not guarding him. They should guard him. I would guard him. And it's like,
it's the same thing. Remember when we were having the Chris Olave discussion, and there was like, why is he always open, man?
Yeah,
it's another wide open
blown coverage merchant.
Coverage merchant. And it's a shame because, I mean, that touchdown that Kelsey had was filthy, man.
It was awesome.
Versus the Texans. And he's, him turning it on at this age is sick. And they would have been screwed without him last game. And he could have gone for even more. He was open plenty of other times and just couldn't quite get hit. So they need him to have another big game. But no, I don't think chip help is going to help us with the Kelsey GOAT debate. I think it's been over for a long time.
Unfortunately.
Well, it is what it is.
So, Matt, you have the Chiefs. Give me a score.
I have the Chiefs. We're going to go 28-24.
Very regular score.
Yep.
Theo.
What do I know? I think the run game will be good, not great for the Bills. I think everything will be good, not great for the Bills. And I think the Chiefs will, I've come around on the Chiefs winning. Mahomes will be great.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know. I think it's going to
they'll be down 21-24 after the Bills have some like tough fourth down decision to make. And then the Chiefs will drive down off of Mahomes, Waddles, and Travis Kelce being wide open for no reason. And it's going to make the entire NFL community
The Bills
sick.
are going to kick a field goal, go up 24-21. Yep. You can see it now.
I'll go.
It'll be 27-21. They'll kick a field goal and miss it, and then the Chiefs will go down and win. It'll be 28-27. I'm changing my prediction. That's my devil magic prediction.
My gosh.
I honestly don't know. I do like what the Bills can do on offense a lot. I feel like I'm kind of discounting them with what I've said. And like some of the screens that got missed in the first game were like, Allen, like a hand gets put on him. Like maybe they'll be able to more fully punish the Chiefs blitzing and getting downhill with like more play action and more screens that actually work. And like they catch it and turn up field and like Spags is forced to spread out. And then the running game kind of starts to get going. Like that, I can so clearly see that happening as well. It's like they start out real heavy and blitzing, and then like, oh, look at that. It's Khalil Shakir off play action, and he just took it to the house after the catch, or he's on a screen and he took it to the house. And then they have to stop blitzing, and then it's the third quarter, and they're up 2, and then it becomes a double-digit game, and the Chiefs just can't chase it. I can see that happening as well. In fact, I'll go Bills. I'll switch it at the very end here. I'll say I'll say Bills win. It's going to look the exact same as 30-21. Well, we're running back
Theo like ripping his hair out. That needs to be the thumbnail, man.
I don't know who's going to win. It's going to look the exact same as the game I watched earlier today, the Week 11 game. It's going to end 30-21. It's going to hit all the same beats. It's going to end on a Allen scramble. We'll say 30-21.
I do like Willie had so many yards.
We've already seen this game, and it ends
literally
30-21.
played.
Like we know how this one finishes. It's 30-21.
Yeah, I like that.
So we'll say that.
It is going to be 27-28, and the Bills are going to line up to kick a game-winning field goal. All right, they're going to line up to kick a game-winning field goal to make it 30-28. They're going to line up, probably about 47 yards on the right hash. A little bit of wind. Nothing crazy, though. Snap is back. Ball is down. Kick on the way. But it's blocked.
By the Chiefs?
By the Chiefs. And
they blocked a lot of kicks this year.
On a blocked field goal.
They did.
They've been doing that. I can see that.
Like a little long, but nothing crazy.
Bass is also low. Bass ain't Butker too, You did miss an extra point in that last Chiefs game.
So we'll see.
No,
Which will happen again as it ends 30-21.
I really am seeing the chance to really actually seal it, and they blow it, and then the defense goes out and just crumples. And I'm thinking it's not blocked; it's just a really bad miss. If I'm getting more specific,
what is it? What is it for the Bills? Wide right? Is that it?
Maybe I wasn't trying to go quite to the Super Bowl miss, but I'm thinking it's one of those ones where it's like instantly.
If they go to the Super Bowl, that is happening though. If they go, like, if the Bills win this game, just know like they're missing wide right. It's a lock.
I'm more confident in the Chiefs' devil magic than any sort of Bills curse is what I'm saying. But we'll see.
We will see. So
I'm trying to,
I'll take the Chiefs. Matt, you're taking the Chiefs. Theo.
And then Theo, we'd ask for a devil magic prediction from you, but you don't believe.
I don't believe in it, and that's why I'm going Bills at the end of the day. I do like the Chiefs. I do. And now I'm thinking about the Bills' defense again and how pedestrian they looked trying to defend the Chiefs last year.
It looks pedestrian. It's cursed, bro. It's a hex. You can call it what it is.
I think it's just having like a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback and defensive tackle and tight end and coach and coordinator, but whatever.
No, that's not it.
Cursed.
No, my mistake, my bad.
Devil magic. But hey,
I'll say the double magic for the Bills, if I'm going to predict like a way for it to end, probably just a Josh Allen carry in like a short yardage situation, just like it was last time. 4th and 2, he like breaks a bunch of tackles and scores as it ends 30-21 and the exact same game gets played.
it's going to be, you're going to get the JT Barrett like tackled sideways, and you can't quite tell. They're going to give him the spot on the field. And then in the replay, the ball's going to be completely covered. And a bunch of people are going to try and tell you that it was obviously short, even though no one can see the football. And it's going to stay. It's going to stay as a first down. And that's how the Bills will win, if they do. In your world, Theo.
I could see it. I could see it.
It's all right. That'll do it for our championship weekend predictions. I would say that things will go exactly as we have foreseen, but there seem to be some differences among us. But we'll at least have the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and it'll either be a rematch, a potential revenge game for Jalen Hurts, or it'll be the Bills' shot at getting their first Super Bowl victory. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. Matt, Theo, any parting words?
Go Pack, go.
Nope.
All right, man. Go Browns. And until next time, as always, we will catch you on the flippity flop.